Welcome to the Guardians of the CLE Podcast mid-season roundtable. I am your host and mediator, Kevin Sledz. With me is our panel of experts, or so-called experts, for this show. As we're going to look back at some preseason predictions we made. Look back at the first half of the season, ahead to the second half, the trade deadline, and all that good stuff. So, before we start, let's introduce everybody. First, we have the newcomer. He's replacing Mel Kirby, who's on a much deserved vacation with her family this week. So filling in for her is the man of many trades. He's covered some USFL, some high school, and soon to be covering some college sports. And he's also the co-host of the new Believe Land Prep podcast with Cameron Palmer. He is Mr. Derek Dimit. How you doing tonight, Derek?
Doing pretty well, boss man. How are you?
I'm doing good. Apparently, I was labeled a Godfather. I heard a rumor about this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
you're welcome.
Yeah, I guess we'll go with that.
I've been trying to find a nickname for him. That one works.
Yeah.
I guess that'll work.
Roll with it.
Better than Papa Kev, I guess.
But you are Papa Cat.
Also joining us from our preseason prediction show is the voice of Ohio Championship Wrestling and the co-host of Double Play CLE. You know him as Yo Paulie, Mr. Paul Huffaker. How you doing, Paul?
Doing good, Kev. This is going to be a lot of fun. I think this prediction show that we did back in April, I think it was April, March, late March.
Yep.
A lot of you guys were drunk that day, from what I understand. So it's going to be fun. I don't imbibe. So.
And rounding it out, we have a familiar face to the Guardians of the CLE podcast. He is the co-host, Mr. James Ellifritz. How you doing, James?
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the show. It's good to have you guys talk a little bit of the Guardians of the CLE.
Yeah.
Let's go. I'm ready. And yes, to answer your question, Yo Paulie, I was drunk. I was drunk on optimism.
It's a hell of a drink right there. You buy that in the 6-pack or did you get the full 12-pack? Oh God, that's a problem. That's a problem. Hey, wait, since you're at an actual baseball diamond right now, and you're getting ready on July the 19th to throw out the first pitch at the Akron Rubberducks game, can you give us a preview? Can you give us one over the plate?
I'll save that for the end. I mean, my pitch count is only at 1.
There we go.
If I try to go 2, I don't want to ruin the arm. So, we're just going to go with the 1.
Tito's got you on a 5-pitch count, so you're fine if you want to throw
I didn't know that. I did not get that email. Does Tito email?
One batter.
I don't even know if he emails.
He sent some smoke signals.
Carrier pigeon.
All right, so let's kick it off and let's look back at the predictions that most of us made. Derek obviously wasn't there. It was Mel and the first one. But so we'll start off with Mel since she's not here. So Mel Kirby had the Guardians at 90 wins. She had a World Series appearance versus the Phillies. She also predicted a big trade, so that could still be coming on the horizon, so that could still come true. She predicted an Astros regression, which it's happened a little bit. They're still over 500 in second place. And then her prospect to watch was Joey Cantillo. So we haven't seen him yet, but still could. So what do you think of Mel's predictions?
Derek, you want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy at the beginning of the year to be filled with optimism. I mean, that's the name of the game. I mean, here in about a month, we'll all have the Browns going, 17-0 or some close to that, right? So, yeah, I know.
I'm not that drunk.
No, but
I don't buy optimism that much.
Right. But yeah, like you said, I think with where they're at now, it may not be the big trade. I think when she made that prediction, it was probably thinking that we'd have a little bit more of a cushion in the Central and just need that one bat maybe to lift them up over some of the teams in the East or the West. But right now it's just focused on trying to hold this half-game lead and extend it in the Central. But they need to get hot to get to that 90 win total. probably is going to be closer to 84 or 85, and that may be good enough to win the Central. So,
well, Derek, since you started off, I think we'll just let everybody explain their predictions and how they're looking. You filled in for Mel, so we'll go with James next. You didn't give a win total, but you did say
I noticed that. I remember that, and I kind of did that on purpose because, last year there was a lot of losses to winning teams.
Yep.
And with the balanced schedule this year and not having as many AL Central games for us to pile up wins with, I honestly wasn't sure where we're going to be. Obviously concerned because the stats were saying we just were not going to be beating a lot of great winning teams consistently. So I did not say that I'd probably expect, a lower win total, but that's kind of the way I was leaning. And I still feel that way right now. I mean, we feel like the NFC East of the NFL a few years back, where I think 6-10 won the division, I think, to go to the playoffs. And that's kind of what the AL Central feels like. It's just it's a weaker division. And, we should, if we were as great as we think we are, or a lot of people think we can be, our record would be better. But I do see to where we do need to make a trade at the deadline. But I'm sure my other prediction was a game changer of a trade at the deadline, if I remember right.
Well, you had him winning the Central, you had a World Series win, and you had a minor league pitcher MVP.
Yes. So, and I believe I mentioned Gavin Williams.
Yes, you did.
Yes. So he was the one that I thought that would come up and play the role of what Jarrett Wright did in 1997 to help the Indians get to the World Series, get to Game 7. I did not expect Gavin to come up as soon as he did. I think injuries probably had a lot to do with that. And he's looked great so far, for being a rookie. Yeah, he's had 2 starts against the Royals, and anybody can look great on that, but it's still Major League Baseball versus AAA. There's probably not much, a whole lot of difference based on, if you look like the Oakland A's as well. It doesn't really feel like strong Major League Baseball, but I think he's doing well. And Tito's mentioned that in his press conferences. Yeah, we would like to see our young pitchers get their pitch counts down and not be such at a high, and in the 90s, approaching 100 around the 5th or 6th inning. With Logan Allen and Tanner Bybee. So there's still there's a lot of things that can happen this second half. And we're a second half team. And I think we have a lot of potential to pull away in Central. But honestly, if you want my second half prediction now, or do you not? Because I'll give it to you.
Let's save it for when we do it.
We talk about the I want to hold off.
I'm worried that he's going to predict another World Series.
You don't have to predict another one when you're still sitting on the first one.
That's true. Very true.
Yeah, that's a concern.
All right. So based on the first half of the season, we'll go with the most accurate so far prediction, and we'll save the worst for last. So, Paul.
wait. That was burying something right there.
Paul, you predicted
only 2 of us left.
Kevin, that's tip my hat to you on that.
You predicted 89 wins, and you predicted an ALDS appearance. How are you feeling about those?
Bad. Very bad. I think it's going to be closer to 75 wins at this point. I don't think that the AL Central division winner is going to be above 500. I don't think we're making it out of the wild card.
I can understand. I mean, but by the way the first half is gone, I mean, there's not a whole lot of a reason to believe they can, but unless you're Jamie.
He's going for broke.
So I did say we'll save the worst for last because that was me, and I picked 95 wins. I picked the World Series appearance versus the Braves, which half of that looks good. And I did say key player was going to be Tanner Bybee. So I did get that right. But other than that, it was pretty horrible. And no, I'm not feeling good about 95 wins. The only thing
Josh Bell.
Yeah, I did say Josh Bell was going to have a great year too. I think. Did I say that?
Somebody on the panel definitely said it.
Well,
it was definitely somebody. I expect him to be a great dad this year. That's about it.
I expected better than 231 and 9 homers at the All-Star break.
I think a lot of us expected Mike Zunino to still be here
Yes.
at the All-Star break.
Yes. Well, that's what I mean. You hear a lot of talk about the bottom of the order being the black hole with him and Zunino and Cam Gallagher, but they expected Zunino to at least come back to part of his form from 2021 when he was an All-Star. And then again, a lot of this is Josh Bell's fault. Sorry, Josh Bell, but nobody expected this.
And the thing is, I don't think anybody picked up Zunino when he got released, which
No,
should tell you what he is.
I think in his defense, I think his shoulder is not 100% healed. I think that's still bothering him. But
yeah, I mean, he resembled a lot of Jake Taylor.
Yeah,
out there, trying to block those balls in the dirt and
those throws.
But still nice major league career.
Call him the Shaq, so to speak. That.
All right, so the Guardians sit at the All-Star break at 45-45 at 500, half game up in first place in the Central behind the Twins, who are a game under 500, along with the rest of the AL Central. So let's just I'll go around the room and kind of talk about your feelings of the first half, your surprises, your disappointments. I think we already threw one of them out there with Bell and Zunino. So Derek, we'll go ahead and start with you.
Surprise is probably that Oscar Gonzalez didn't make it past Mother's Day pretty much before getting demoted. I know that second year sometimes is very hard on players, and I didn't think the regression would come as fast as it did. But other surprises is, I mean, we've made mention to the three-headed monster in the pitching rotation with the rookies, Bybee, Allen, and lastly, Gavin Williams. They've been a pleasant surprise. Unfortunately, it was injuries that moved them up here as quick as it did, but they've kind of hit the ground running for the most part. So that's been a pleasant surprise. And for the second half, it could go either way. And I think these first 2 weeks out of the All-Star break are going to weigh a lot on the front office's decisions that they have to make with the trade deadline. If they look to move Shane Bieber, if they keep Bieber, and, things like that. So it'll definitely be interesting here over the next couple weeks.
Paul, your thoughts?
My biggest surprise is also my biggest disappointment, which is James Karinchak. I was hoping that he would find it and that he would be that solid setup guy to Class A, and we'd be like, okay, we've got the 8th and 9th good. You just got to get to the 6th inning. We've got a fantastic bullpen, no problems whatsoever. And instead, we saw it in the very first game. Karinchak could not handle the pitch clock. He got completely just in his head the whole season. And then he stayed here. And he stayed here longer than he should have. I was actually talking about this on a recent episode of Double Play CLE. He has the 5th most appearances of any pitcher on the Cleveland Guardians staff, and he's been gone for a month. That concerns the hell out of me. I love Tito Francona. I'm never going to tell you that he should go away. I know that there are people on social media that are going to roast me for that. But here's the thing. There is nobody who can replace him that's going to take this team to the World Series. So if you want to replace Terry Francona, that's fine. Just know you are going back to the 1980s because this team is going to go to complete disaster because the team is not going to invest. They're not going to put a competitive team on the field. They're not going to try because they have no reason to at that point. And I don't want to see Sandy Alomar Jr. have to take up for Terry Francona as the next manager of the Guardians because he can't do it. In limited attempts that he's tried this, he's not that guy. I think Sandy can be a great manager, just not here. There's too much pressure, there's too much love, and there's too much expectation. So I want to see the Guardians make it to the postseason, just kind of coast in if that's the case. Because I don't really want to see them change this team. It's not worth investing in this team in 2023 when you're going to get wiped out by Texas, or you're going to get wiped out, if you do make it to the World Series, by the Atlanta Braves. This is not the year to go all in on the Cleveland Guardians. I'm sorry.
All right, and last, we'll call him Mr. O, Mr. Optimism.
About to go Stephen A. Fritz on you, Bali. Because Sandy Alomar, in my opinion, can be a great manager. And if he can do it elsewhere, why couldn't he do it here? He loves it here. He spent most of his career here. I mean, I know he started with San Diego before the trade, but to me, he is the guy that can do it. I just think, honestly, probably in his personal life, preoccupied. I believe his daughter's in high school. So I believe there's some things that are kind of holding him back from being that guy and being that guy here. So I'm hoping that changes, and I do hope it's him, because when that trade was made, I don't know, was it 1990 when we got Alomar and Baerga and Chris James?
I actually 91.
Went to 91.
I think it was 91.
So when we had that trade, I remember going to the mall and getting an Indians t-shirt. There was a place called Fanfare where you could get names and numbers on the back of your shirt. And I put Alomar 15 on it, because to me, that was one of the neat trades that I hadn't seen in a while. But Paul, you understand, the 80s are terrible. And the people on Twitter don't understand a damn bit how difficult it was to live through the 80s of Indians baseball. This Guardians team is nowhere near that. And then, Kevin, I know you know that too.
Yeah.
But I honestly don't think would step back to the 80s. Maybe you're thinking maybe from a record standpoint. I think it would actually get more analytical, and there would be more data driven as far as making decisions, the same way the Browns go for fourth down on their own 30-yard line or whatever it was last year. So that's where I'm at with that. I really think that Alomar would be a good manager for us, and loves the city.
I agree with Alomar. I've wanted to see him get the job, but not now, not mid-season.
Right.
I'd rather see it start fresh. You know, I do love Tito, but I think you can kind of see that the end is coming with some of the decision makings.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you guys this. So if we all thought this was Tito's last year, wouldn't it show the way they would be more aggressive, maybe potentially at the trade deadline? Do you think that's going to be kind of a telling point whether we're extra aggressive to try to do something more than just win our division, just qualify for the 3rd seed and get in the wild card series?
That's a good question. I think he's going to go one more year, especially if they flame out this year. He wants to win that ring here in Cleveland. So I think he is going to go one more year, because I wish I could be as optimistic as you, James. I don't see them doing anything this year. I think they need more than one big trade. I personally would move Bieber because of the young kids they have coming up.
Guys, personally, I know I'm drinking the optimism, but in reality, I get it. I look at our roster. I'm not dumb. I can see other teams that are going to make the playoffs, what they have and what we don't have. But if you look back in 2016, we were right there, 3-1, came off the Cavs series, and the Cavs came out of nowhere to make history. And we don't have a LeBron James. I know Jose Ramirez is our guy, our MVP, but this is baseball. And can Jose be an MVP the second half of the year like we really need? I don't know, but I sure hope we can. But I really think the day that when it comes to end the drought of the World Series, to finally win a championship, it's going to come out of nowhere. We all know as Cleveland fans, and should know, that it's not going to come easy. It's probably not going to come the way we think it's going to be there. And man, if it would have came in 2016, I mean, that was still the best summer all time as being a Cleveland fan, was it not? So if it can happen, and we can go in the first round, we got Houston, and then the second round we would have the Rangers. Right now, that's the way it looks in the standings. Everything's bigger in Texas, including the losses. So why not us?
All right, I do love your optimism, and maybe like 2017, maybe Stipe will start it off by upsetting John Bones Jones,
Beautiful.
and get it going for the city.
Oh yeah.
All right, so
he's did it before.
My disappointments, Oscar Gonzalez, of course. I thought there'd be, like Derek said, some regression, but I didn't expect him to fall as hard as he did. He looks like he may have regained some momentum. He's been killing the ball, and what it sounds like is they're going to bring him up to start the second half, and he's going to get a shot to platoon with Will Brennan in right field. So we'll see how that goes. Obviously, Josh Bell, we mentioned that, and Zanino, but the surprise is the young kids, how well Tanner Bybee and Logan Allen have come up and done, and now Gavin Williams. And now I'm just excited to see these guys, and I hope they stick. Obviously there's going to be innings management going forward the rest of the season between the three of them, but that'll be the interesting part. Let's kind of transition over to the second half now. Is how Tito navigates this whole thing with trying to contend, trying to win a division with three young guys and managing their innings at the same time, not knowing if you're going to get Tristan McKenzie back or not. Everything up in the air with Shane Bieber. Are they going to trade him? So there's a lot of factors going in, and I'm interested to see how that goes. But one thing I could say is his teams are always second half teams. So that's the one thing they have going for them. They seem to play their best ball when it's needed.
And Kevin, I don't think I gave you my biggest disappointment, and it's really not his fault. It's not having Tristan McKenzie in our rotation.
Yeah.
Because to me, it completely changes the way the first half of the season would win if he was healthy. And maybe we would look at Bieber a little bit different here at the trade deadline, and maybe he would have a little more value. I don't know. But, those wins that we were not getting from Tristan not being in the rotation would be very helpful. And I believe we would have a larger gap definitely for first place. So,
in my opinion, with Tristan too, is if he's supposed to start throwing again mid-August. If they look to be out of it, I would just shut him down for the rest of the season. There's no reason to try to rush him back and end up needing Tommy John surgery or end up hurting it worse. So that's my opinion on that. Derek, how you feeling about the second half?
You look at the Central and you're definitely in it. As for the second half, I think that the onus is going to fall even more on the bullpen than what it was so far this season, especially with these innings restrictions. And, Cal Quantrill comes back and he struggled. There's, like you said, it's mid-August at the earliest for Tristan to even pick up a baseball and throw it. So the earliest you're getting him back is after the NFL season starts. But yeah, I think the onus is going to fall on the bullpen, and it's going to be, can Eli Morgan and De Los Santos, continue the great years that they've had, and can Sandlin come in when needed, and can Trevor Stephan, hopefully this all-star break kind of resets him, and he can go back to being that seventh or eighth inning guy that, like Paul was saying, you hope Karinchak was, but he flamed out on us. I'm sure he'll be up sometime in the second half just to give it one more try. And then on the offensive side, you'd love to see some pop from the outfield, but it's probably not coming. Like you said, maybe they bring up Oscar Gonzalez, and against lefties he can do something. But other than that, hopefully Naylor can continue his great season. He's another one that probably could be categorized in the surprise category. Just the continuation from last year, how he ended it into this year. He's really carried that over. So,
all right. And before I get to Paul, I did forget. I mentioned all the young pitchers that have come up and done a great job. I forgot about Xavier Curry because he's been
definitely
awesome out of the bullpen. Paul, what are your thoughts on the second half?
First off, I think it's funny that it took us this long to even mention a Naylor, let alone Josh Naylor. When we have two of them, we should have at least a 2 out of 40 shot there. So you got a 1 in 20 chance of mentioning it at least once in the hour. And it took us that long. So I took the plus odds on that, and I was wrong. What do you know? My concern is that people are expecting more than the front office is going to do. I think the front office has looked at this team and said, no, they're not doing it. We're not going to spend the money, and we can put a team out there that will at least stay 500, could maybe sneak their way in, and then that's it. I do think that Bieber gets traded. I think he should be traded because, let's be honest here, we've all sat through this. We did this with Francisco Lindor, and it bit us in the ass. Sorry. We can't do that again. At least get whatever you can out of Shane Bieber now, because he's worth something now. He's not a rental player. He's not that guy anymore. He is not an ace. He is a 2 or a 3 at best. We've seen a significant regression in Shane Bieber to the point where he doesn't look like the same pitcher half the time. He's become this Jekyll and Hyde of himself, where you're either going to get a fantastic version of him or you're going to get trash. And there's no middle ground with him anymore. And I got to get rid of him. And I got to get whatever I can out of him. And here's what I'm suggesting. Package George Valera with him. We know about the incident that he had down in Columbus. We know that this front office does not like character issues. So if you want to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, package George Valera with Shane Bieber and get somebody's top 4 farm system right now. Because that package, maybe throw in 1 other mid-level, should get the job done to get us the pieces that can compete in 2024 and beyond. I'm not looking at 2023 anymore. 2023 is the year that I'm living in and nothing else. I'm not expecting much out of this Guardians team. And I think setting your expectations that high is just a recipe for disaster.
I got a question for you. When did we trade Francisco Lindor? Did we trade him at the trade deadline, or did we trade him in the offseason?
Traded him in the offseason, and we didn't get nearly as much as we could have if we had traded him at the deadline. That's my problem.
Is that what's holding us back, though? Because we didn't trade at the trade deadline? Because to me, there's not a trade that's going to be made at the trade deadline that's going to make us a favorite in any one series. And with all the rookies that we have in our starting rotation and their innings going to creep up there, we're going to need a guy that can go 6, maybe 7. And shout out to Aaron Savali, where I usually just beat him up and say, just get him 5 innings and get him out. He's actually been going longer. So I respect him. He's had a hell of a year. But I don't see where we're going to get the value that we need now for him, like the trade that you want to make. And I'd love to be able to make that. But I think him supporting this pitching staff with no McKenzie, him being there, and then in the offseason, we're going to try to get what we can get. Yes, I'm with you on trading him in the offseason, though, not necessarily at the trade deadline, if the right team is in play and we get the right value.
All right, well,
because we know he's leaving.
Yeah,
we're not paying it.
No, that's for sure. Let's talk trade deadline. What trades are out there that you would like to see them make, if any? I'm going to start out. I like, again, on the Bieber thing. I think, like Paul said, you can maximize his value by doing it at this year's deadline. I'm also, I'm hoping they surprise me, but I'm also looking to 2024. So I'm looking to buy and sell. So I'm looking to add to the 2024 roster, and I would move Bieber. I would move Ahmed Rosario. And for the love of God, please put Tyler Freeman at shortstop and leave him there and let him play every day, because that kid should be playing every day. I've said it from the beginning when he was coming up in A-ball that I thought he was the best pure hitter in the system, and I still believe that.
I think he's the backup quarterback in high school that we all know that's better, but he's a junior.
Yeah.
But the coach is playing the senior.
Exactly. And maybe get a look at some of the other young arms like Mel mentioned, Joey Cantillo, and a few others. But I think they should look towards 2024. But obviously, they're probably not going to, because they are in first place and this division blows. So
We're just trashing the entire American League Central.
Oh, I mean, it is.
But the best part about it is the ticket in the playoffs. It's the same ticket as everybody else.
Yeah, and you look.
No, it's not, because
we all start out 0-0.
But the 1 and 2 ticket don't have to play in that wild card round. They just go to the next train stop. So if we're talking about train destinations, I'd rather be in the 1 and 2 train than the 3 train.
No, fair enough. But I'd no way in hell I thought we would be there.
Well, the one positive thing I can say is you look back in the 1997 season when they hovered around 500 the whole year, didn't look like a playoff team, and then they got hot and got to the World Series. So anything can happen, like you said. Derek, any trades you're looking at or anything you'd like to see them do?
Yeah, kind of echoing what you said. If we all know that Rosario's gone after this year, so if you can get something, even if it's a mid-level prospect, just to even if you translate that in the off season to bring someone else in. What worries me about Bieber is the struggles that he's had here recently. It's kind of that fresh in the mind of the front office. The front offices that are going to be calling may use that to try to lower their price that they're willing to give up. And like Paul said, maybe then you do have to look into packaging Bieber with someone like a Valera or one of their 15 million middle infielders, because you still have way too many. So yeah, pretty much what you said.
I don't know why they've decided to hoard middle infielders, because now you've got the logjam with Rosario holding guys back. You've got Freeman, you've got Arias, who's apparently in the doghouse because he hasn't played in started a game in how many weeks now. You got Brian Rocchio, who's ready at AAA, but has nowhere to play up here. And you got Brito, who's just killing the ball at Akron, who will probably be moved up to Columbus at some point. But before we get to the next person, just on the Valera front, I don't want to trade him. I know the incident was bad, but it's the first time he's ever had an issue. He's always been a good character guy. And, people lose their cool and do things that they regret. And I'm pretty sure he probably regrets what he did. But he's one of the few power prospects that we actually have. We don't have many. So I want to see what he can do as he develops. And with that, I'll hand it over to you, Paul, for your trade deadline thoughts.
Well, I kind of already covered that.
You did.
I agree. We got to get something out of Shane Bieber. I cannot keep letting good to great talent potential. He's already got a Cy Young, and we're sitting here going, well, I don't know, maybe we can keep him for a little bit long. No, get rid of him. Get rid of him and be done with it. Pull the Band-Aid off the scab and be done with it, because you're still going to have an upset fan base when you do the trade, no matter what you get out of it. So just do it already and just be done with it, because all that's happening, it's like in football whenever you have the backup quarterback. You're just sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting, and eventually it's like, this is taking too long. Click. And that's the problem with the Guardians. We've got viewership up on Bally Sports. We have attendance up. This is the time to act, the time to make a significant move that can show that we're worried about now and the future. I worry more about the future than I worry about now, because the Central is the Central. We've all said it. This is not going to be a hard division to win. All you have to do is stay right where you're at, and you're probably going to get there. And that means you have no reason to make a significant move.
Well, as far as Bieber goes, there's a contender out there who could probably use a pitcher who has a plethora of young outfielders. Can you guess who I'm talking about?
I've heard the Angels have been tied to us with Joe Adele.
Really? Well,
which I would love that. I would love to have Joe Adele.
He's up playing center now with Trout out. So he was down at AAA, but he's playing center with Trout not playing right now. So
I think the Orioles would be a good match.
Yeah, well, he's basically their Arias. He's been on the major league roster for the Angels and doing nothing.
Yeah.
So that would be fantastic. I'd love to get him. I want to stay away from Lane Thomas. I've not heard much good about him, except that he has found something this season. But every prospect analysis and every scout has said that he's a 4A player. And I really don't want to trade for a 4A player.
James, you kind of disappeared there for a minute while Paul was talking. So,
well, was it Bieber trade?
Yeah.
Hey, how about this? How about Shane Bieber? Right, he's been a Cy Young winner for us, All-Star Game MVP. The All-Star Game's being played tonight. What about him and the service time that he's put in with the Cleveland Guardians and giving him the shot to be in the playoffs with our team, giving him the shot to get this together in the second half and help us win a World Series? We always talk about we always want guys to stay. And then when it's time to get rid of them, we just want to kick them out like we're changing who is picking up our trash at the end of the driveway. To me, we got to keep them. Just for now.
If I went to Shane Bieber and said, "Hey, are you willing to take a pay cut to stay?" and he says yes, all systems go. I'm all on board because I'd rather have Shane Bieber than at least 75% of the possibilities that would replace him. But he's not going to do that. He's not Jose Ramirez, who's just like, I'm good with what I got. Let's just try this out. I want to give Jose a chance to get to the World Series again because he deserves it. I like Shane Bieber. I don't love Shane Bieber. I never have. I think he's one of the least clutch pitchers since Corey Kluber that we've had. That said, I know what happens here. This is literally the never-ending story of Cleveland baseball. We've done this so many times that I'm just at the point on the carousel where I'm like, I've been riding the horse for so long, I would like to try a different animal here.
All right, so before
we just don't.
Oh, go ahead,
Kevin. I'm sorry, Kevin, but we don't get better by getting younger. And like Derek and I talked about on the podcast last week, how AAA do we want to be? How many guys do we want to bring up from the minors and play them now? We know young teams struggle to win, and we were very, very fortunate last year to try to be like the '86 Mets and actually win the World Series with the youngest team in baseball. Odds are against us for sure, but I just don't see peeling back guys that have won awards, guys that are talented, that have been in the league where these young guys can look to, because you can't just have your guys looking at managers. You've got to have leadership on the field. And I don't know if Bieber's that rah-rah guy. I'm not saying he is, and I'm not saying that he's my favorite pitcher of our organization of all time. But to me, in order to allow this team, if they do get hot going into the playoffs, you're going to need that guy that's pitched in the postseason. And can Tristan McKenzie come back? If he comes back, that's a whole different ball game we're talking, especially in a short series.
Can I ask a question here?
Yeah, go ahead, Paul.
I just want to go around on this one. Is Tristan McKenzie going to pitch in 2023 again?
I'm going to say no.
I hope not, because kind of like Kevin was saying, I think if you rush him back and he's not fully 100%, you just run the risk of ruining 2024 also.
My answer is the record will dictate if he pitches. Because you know he's going to want to pitch. He's going to want to be out there. When he came back off his injured list and they interviewed him in the dugout, he's like, man, I'm 100%. He goes, I can give you 120. I'm 120%. You want 120? I'll get. So, yeah, that young energy. I mean, sure, we want him to take care of himself, but let's see what happens. Let's play the games. Let's see where we are going on later in the season when he wants to start pitching. I don't know. We'll find out.
All right, so before we wrap it up with our second half predictions, I'm going to go around the room and have everybody give me one surprise player for the second half, either on the roster or not on the roster. Paul, we'll start with you.
I would love to see them make the trade for Joe Adell. If that does happen, that would be a huge surprise. It'd be a huge shot in the arm, and it would set us up beyond 2023. The outfield would actually finally be kind of complete for once, which is something I don't think has ever happened in my life.
Jamie?
For me, the guy that I'm just pulling this out of the thin air here, outside here in this beautiful baseball stadium. I'd like to see Alex Verdugo from Boston. I don't know what he makes, his contract, none of that. I just know Boston's near the bottom. I like his fire. I like his playoff experience. I like his power. He's got swag. Now, does he have Tatis swag? No, but he's got that energy that I think this team needs because we don't have a lot of veterans to look at. So I think we need to add some veteran leadership. Is it Oscar coming back up? even with his small sample size of playoff experience that happened to be pretty good. That might be what happens because that's the inexpensive way to go. But if we want to get aggressive, a guy like Alex Verdugo I'm a fan of. So
if you're looking at Boston, you might also look towards Kike Hernandez. If you're looking for somebody who has postseason experience and leadership experience, when the clock strikes midnight and it becomes October, he becomes a completely different player.
Derek, how about you?
I said it with Jamie last week. I think Andres Jimenez is gonna, kind of rebound in the second half. He showed signs here recently of finding his stroke a little bit better, trying not to pull as much. He'd be the one that I kind of earmark as having a big second half for us, especially if we do want to make a run at the playoffs.
As much as I'd like to say Josh Bell, I've already been down that road. So I'm going to go
Stephen. Get burned again?
No, I'm going to go Stephen Kwan. He's had a bit of a regression, hitting about 260, I believe. I expected some, but I think he's regressed a little bit more than I thought he would. But I think he's going to pick it up and have a big second half at the top of that lineup, which will be big, setting the table.
Do you think that the Kwan regression is because he's had a year at the major leagues and now every team has a book on him and he has no real surprises anymore? That was that ambush that we had.
I think that's part of it. I think he's struck out a lot more than I anticipated him striking out.
Yeah, because he was not striking out last year.
No, he was not, and that was his MO all the way through the system.
Yep.
All right, second half prediction, guys. Paul.
Oh God. Can I defer because I think Jamie's going to kill me if I go first on this? So I'm going to elect to defer my prediction until he gives his.
All right, go ahead, Jamie.
I don't want to go. No, I don't want to go first. Derek,
you're
the one that you're the Cleveland Media Rookie of the Year front runner right now. So
there you go.
Let's hear what you got to say.
I think they hover around 500, and maybe Minnesota goes out and makes some moves, and it goes better for them than it did last year. I know last year at the trade deadline they made quite a few moves and made some moves in the offseason. But again, so much lies on what happens in these next 2 or 3 weeks with the trade deadline to see what the outlook of the team is. But I think regardless, they'll hover around the 500 mark, and depending on what the Twins do, maybe they sneak in as a 3 seed, and like Jamie said, all you need is a ticket to the dance.
Jamie?
He's exactly right. Just need a ticket. And as long as we get in there, that's all that matters. But I want to start with this prediction. I'm looking at the last weekend series in Detroit being the series that we and Minnesota are still neck and neck, where a lot of Guardians fans are going to go up to the city of Detroit and take over Comerica Park, and we're going to win the division up in Detroit to end the season to go to the playoffs. And then after that, there's going to be a huge celebration in the locker room, and everybody's going to be fired up, and everybody's going to be celebrating.
And he put the hat back on.
AL Central champs.
If you've never watched the podcast on YouTube,
there's water running down the
to watch this
places I don't want right now.
Just did.
Trust me, after what I had to deal with last Saturday, I'm aware of where the water has seeped to.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure I threw away that particular change of clothes.
Well, Paul,
I'm pretty sure nobody at the park's seen that, so they do not think I'm crazy.
Paul, how do you follow that up?
I don't know. I guess I toot my own horn because I had one of the early predictions that was right. I told you guys that the Detroit Tigers would at least make it to second in the division. And for a while there, they were up there in second, battling with Minnesota while we were languishing in third. That's the team I think everybody needs to pay attention to at the deadline. The Detroit Tigers are going to do something stupid. I don't know what yet, But the Detroit Tigers want to send Miguel Cabrera off in the way that you want to send Shane Bieber off. This is Miguel Cabrera's final season. So they're going to make a stupid trade to take one shot at this if they're anywhere close to the division lead. And here's the problem. Everybody is too close to the division lead. So our entire division is going to do something stupid. Minnesota is going to make a trade. Chicago is going to make a trade. Detroit is going to make a trade. Kansas City might even make a trade just so that they don't get left out. The Guardians are not going to make a trade. That is my expectation. If they do anything, it's going to be a low-level rental kind of guy that nobody gives a damn about. And that's a concern. I think we're going to take the division. At the very worst case scenario, this team's not so bad that they can't sneak into a wild card anyways. But if you're expecting a World Series championship, that's just unrealistic. If you're expecting an AL championship, that's unrealistic. If they make it out of the wild card series, which if they're the 3 seed, they will have home field advantage for the entirety of, that will be realistic. They're just not capable of taking this team to the dance.
All right, I'm gonna scale my 95 win prediction back a bit and go 85. Winning the division. And I do think they could sneak past the wild card and get into the ALDS, but that's as far as I have them going. So I'm also scaling back my World Series prediction quite a bit. So
you still think the Braves are going to make it?
Yes, I do. They're ridiculous.
Man, they're so hot so fast right now. I'm nervous.
I get that, but at the same time, you look at that team, and I think they sent 8 to the All-Star game this year. The last team to do that, you're talking about, there's the 2008 Yankees are in that mix. So I'm not betting against Atlanta. I think they're an easy favorite to take the National League Championship. They have such a solid foundation. Their pitching just keeps improving. Like the new kid who just came up not too long ago for them when Spencer Strider went down with the injury, and I cannot remember his Bryce Elder.
I think it was Elder.
Yeah, he's fantastic. He could easily have started the All-Star game if they really wanted to. And that's the kind of thing that Cleveland is missing. We keep bringing pieces up that are good, but not great. We need those great pieces. I think what needs to happen is there needs to be a change in the scouting and development department.
And when I think about the Atlanta Braves, I think about 2 big pieces they added that the Guardians were in on as far as trade talks go. And Matt Olson and Sean Murphy. And it's depressing. Even having one of those guys would be huge right now.
Yeah, but you got to think about what they were asking in return. Because the conversations we're having. They were happening. We probably wouldn't have Bybee on the mound or Williams on the mound. So the thing to remember is we're looking at our team now for how they're going to finish the year. Is the team that we have now, it's going to change. It's going to get better. I believe they're going to get better. So we have to remember that that's the team that's going to be going into the playoffs, not the team that we saw in the first half of the season. That's why I think we have a chance. That's why potentially Baltimore could come out of that other bracket. And we could be playing Baltimore, who saved our ass the last 2 games in the Minnesota series, so we could continue to keep our division lead as slim as it is. But I really think we can get there. We got to remember last year, too, in the National League, the Phillies and Padres were playing in the NLCS. Who had that? Who had the Dodgers being out? Who had trying to remember who was the other, I think the 2 seed last year that didn't make it. I can't remember who it was, but those are 2 wild card teams that made it in. So
I think that was Atlanta.
I can't remember. It's
I
not the
Atlanta
Giants.
was
The Giants struggled, I think, last year. Or did the Giants also have 100 wins? I can't remember. They had a good team, whether it was last year or the year before.
I genuinely don't remember, but I think it was Atlanta was that 2 seed in the National League.
Right. I mean, just my point is that, like I said, let's just get in the playoffs, see what happens.
I agree, and let's hope that does happen, and we have another season to remember. All right. Well, before we wrap this up, we got one more
It was
event.
Atlanta.
Was Atlanta? Okay.
It was Atlanta.
Yeah, defending World Series champions got knocked out in what? NLDS. So, yeah, anything can happen.
All right. So for those of you that don't know, Jamie, along with his co-host Mel Kirby, next Wednesday, the 19th, at Canal Park, will be throwing out the first pitch before the Rubber Ducks game. And Jamie's got a little warm-up preview for us before we wrap this up.
Yeah, next Wednesday, be there. Start time, 6:35 against the Richmond Flying Squirrels. It's going to be a good time. It's going to be fun to meet a lot of our Believeland media team that, we get to talk on Zoom. We get to talk through text message, but it's going to be, there's nothing better than seeing people in person. So that's going to be fun. And it's a tremendous honor to represent Kevin and Believeland media for the first pitch with the Akron Rubber Ducks. And I'm ready to go.
Here we go.
Ooh, little short.
Did it bounce?
It bounced.
Yeah, a
It
little
bounced.
short. I think I might have to stay a little extra innings here and practice a little bit. So
you can't bounce it next week, bro. You gotta put it over the plate.
Yes, no bouncing.
Well, the pitch clock back here was I needed to hurry up, so I'm going to work on that this week.
Okay, Karen check, but I don't see a pitch clock there. I'm struggling to tell. There it is.
There it is.
Right around your bat knob on your bat could be sending signals to your earpiece. Yeah, I get that.
To be honest with you, I played pretty much every infield position but pitcher and catcher. So this is kind of a different spot for me. But since my pitch count is 1, I think I'm going to survive.
All right. We look forward to it. Yeah. All right. I want to thank you guys for coming on, and thanks for all your predictions. And we'll have to revisit this at the end of the season and see how our midseason predictions came about. And
I love how Kevin took a deep breath after that.
Yeah, right.
Well, my mouth is dry as hell right now, and all my water's gone. So I need to get going too.
All right, guys. So make sure you check out. We'll have video of the first pitch after it takes place next week. But if you can't make it out to the game, watch out for that. And if you do make it out to the game, we'll be behind home plate in Rose INJ. So come over and say hi. We'd love to meet you. And make sure you're following us all across all of our platforms, all of our podcasts, written content, game coverages. And next week, Mel Kirby will be back in the seat with James for Guardians of the CLE Podcast, kicking off the second half of the season. So with that, thank you guys again, and everybody have a great night.
Good night.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, guys. Had a great time.